Because I'm a crazy person, I've decided my next main channel video is going to be about Apple and PC computers. Everyone should be very, very happy with how that turns out. The reason is because of Apple's unveiling of their Mac Pro, which is ridiculously expensive, and everyone talks about how they're the $1,000 stand for the monitor. It's just the stand is $1,000. That's ridiculous. And then I've seen people defend it, being like, "This is a Mac Pro. This is going to be thousands and thousands of dollars anyway, and it's going to be for like the average Joe probably isn't going to buy one. It's going to be for companies that spend lots and lots of money all the time, and $1,000 isn't going to be that big a deal." I mean, you can upgrade the computer to be in 40, maybe like 40-some thousand dollars with all the if you maxed it out. So that's a good point, I suppose, but it's still pretty ridiculous to charge $1,000 for a stand. I mean, I'm not trying to hate on Apple. I have an Apple laptop, but I have an Android phone, so I kind of go both ways. But I decided to make a video. Why do people like Apple? Because they seem like they're simultaneously the most hated and most loved company out there. Because whenever they announce things, people just talk about all the terrible things that they do. Yet they are ridiculously successful. I think I've read all the comments I can read. I've been reading all weekend about Apple and about what people say about them. And I think I can already predict what you guys are going to comment. But do it anyway. Prove me wrong. That'll lead to some interesting comments. You know, Steve Jobs, after Steve Jobs passed, people have accused Apple of losing their core values. But Apple has also had criticism since the very, very, very beginning. They've always had people hating certain things that they do, and there's always been long lulls where they didn't have a lot of innovation, and then they come out with something crazy. Everywhere I look, everything I look at that's like a positive about Apple, or a negative about Apple, or a positive about PC or Android, or a negative about them, I find contradictions all over the place. My general conclusion is that everyone has different needs, and and different amounts of money, and to each their own. But there are certain things you can say that, like, Apple is more expensive. You have less versatility with Apple. It's arguably you have more stability, you have more consistency because they're in-house. They build their hardware and their software, and so they can make everything very streamlined and consistent within their own ecosystem. Therefore, it can lead to more stability and more security, even though, you know, there's this belief that they don't get viruses. They do more so nowadays, and malware. And all the apps that you get from them are through the App Store that they regulate pretty heavily. So everything is going to be, it's likely that you're going to get a dependable, robust product from them. On the other hand, you can make that work in the world of PC and Android too, and with more versatility and be cheaper. The problem is, like, there's less guarantee. There's more versatility, but you have to give it a little more effort. It all comes down to what you want your computer or your phone to do, what you need, what you're willing to spend. And then there's the idea of status, and you know, it's not just about what it can do, it's how it makes you feel. That's, as silly as that sounds, that's a reality. That's a real thing real reason people buy things. So I came up with an analogy that I'm going to talk about in the main channel video. It's going to be, I think I'm going to rely a little more heavily on the humor for the main channel, because if I get too serious, then the commenters will get too serious, and it'll get pretty ugly. But I think I've come up with an analogy I think works well with Mac and PC. When I say PC, I mean, is there a right way to say, when I say PC, does that include Android? Mac and not Mac? Is that the best way to do it? Apple and not Apple? Apple is like going out and getting a meal at a good restaurant. And not Apple is like cooking at home. That's the analogy I've come up with, because you go out to a good restaurant, it's going to cost more probably than cooking at home, not taking into account all the equipment you're using at home. And you could buy high-end stuff at the grocery store, but you go to the restaurant and everything is kind of ready for you. You know what to expect. You've read reviews. It's a highly reliable restaurant. You're going to have a chef choosing the right food and the menu and the ingredients, and they're going to put it together in a very standard way every time, and you're going to eat it, you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to pay more. It's convenient. You didn't have to cook it or think about it much yourself, and you enjoyed it. Not Apple. Cooking at home, you got to go to the grocery store. You got to get all the ingredients and you got to know what ingredients you need, and you got to do the research to figure out how to cook it and put it together. But in the end, you get a dish that's likely less expensive and exactly what you wanted if you know how to do it. Both options, good options. Depends on what you want, what you can afford, what you like to do, what you know. I think it's the perfect analogy. And please, tell me your criticisms if you don't have any. Only if you don't have any. Tell them to me, please, in the comments. And while I explain that, I can do little reenactments, little server-customer reenactments, or me in the grocery store being a crazy person. I hope to make a fun video about Apple everyone can enjoy and not get angry with each other about. But feel free to get angry in the comments. Okay, thank you for watching. Did you see my latest video on the main channel about home buying that I talked about a lot on this channel? I'm very, very proud of it. Please check that out if you haven't. And still making daily vlogs every weekday on Patreon. And happy, what day is it? Monday? Happy life. I gotta get back to work.